Hey everybody, I'm going to show you a combo that I have used very effectively to mobilize my mid back here, my T-spine, and very common sticky area, especially for rotational athletes. Ironically, you would think that that area would be nice and buttery smooth to rotate, but it gets very stiff, especially mid-season. And I'm going to show you a way to assertively really get into this, almost like you're getting a chiropractic adjustment. So first of all, quick little anatomy briefing. We want to make sure we're keeping the roller in between these basic areas. You don't need to know the anatomy perfectly, but basically we're following the ribs around. We're looking at these 12 vertebrae in here from the top of above our pelvis, where the ribs come around here. We have this T12, this thoracolumbar junction here, and that area can get really stiff and sticky in here. And then all the way up to this, some people have a little notch here where we're at the cervical thoracic junction up here. So those two kind of sticking points can be areas, and all that is fair game to work between. We don't want to get into our lower back here, our lumbar region, and mobilize that, because that tends to be an area where we need more stability rather than mobility. T-spine, generally the case is we want to get as much mobility in here. We want those ribs to move. This is not a steel cage, a rigid cage. This is able to articulate really well. And if you've had a rib out or something that really is stiffened and tight in those areas, holding tension, it doesn't feel very good, and even breathing can be limited. So this is preventative. It's also, very restorative too. I've used this even when things have been very sore and strained in the area within reason. So using a foam roller, I can also use this type of ball. This is a not out, it's a custom ball setup. You can find these online, I believe still. Just the roller works fine. Most people do just fine with just the roller at first, depending, especially big, strong, stiff people, using a little bit of resistance you can play with. A very strong person can use up to 50 pounds or maybe a little bit more. They could use a kettlebell. I like a sandbag or a medicine ball. This is a 40-pound medicine ball. So that can really add to this once I get the basic feel. But just to show you where I'm going. So I'm in my low back right now. I'm rolling to my mid back, and I'm gonna lightly brace my spine. So this is gonna take a little bit of getting used to. It's kind of a pat your head, rub your tummy type of thing. We're stiffening this a little bit, or we're limiting this, and we're moving into this. So I'm starting right at the bottom here, and we're gonna work our way progressively up in a quick fashion, show you the basics. But I can just start by basically doing a reverse. I'm pushing back. It looks like I'm doing a sit-up, and I'm keeping this angle, or I can just tuck my chin in here. So I'm not straining my neck, of course. I don't want to do that in the process. And I don't want to extend all this. Very easy to throw our ribs, and this should not change. The belly button and the orientation with the bottom of the ribs and the hips should be the same. We're not opening this up. We're keeping this stiff, or if anything, curled up a little bit here. So I'm just going back over this, extending back. It's not going to move very much, and if you're already stiff, sore, you're going to have to really listen to this. And you can go to just a light position where you're just getting a little bit of movement, and take some breaths in there. Really think about the breath expanding down into the diaphragm, down into here. That's going to make a huge difference. If you're holding your breath and just pushing back into it or bouncing, not going to be effective. So breath first, position, and then range, and just extending and flexing forward and back like a crunch. But I can work into some lateral motion too here. Again, I'm trying to separate these segments in there, and I can start to do more of this kind of a half moon shape at an angle here. You can see me kind of rolling through. So I could play with that, 5, 10, 20 seconds, maybe even a little bit longer in each position. I'm just, in the interest of time, being mindful. I went up a segment here, a little less interesting for me. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Boom, and then all the way again, probably 4 or 5 different positions. See, I'm really flattening down here. I'm not allowing this to happen. Again, lock this down. Might even want to video yourself, or send me a video of you doing this, and I'll be happy to look at it too. You can start to hug here, because otherwise we're going to close down and lock our shoulder blades in if we don't start to hug ourselves, or start even in here. Play around with that position. Again, keep those principles in mind. Somewhere in here where this is able to lock down and move, this can work really well. Open the shoulder blades, because they want to close off. Again, that provides more of a stiffer whole segment. We can't get in between the areas as well. Again, probably my favorite is the sandbag here, hugging. Again, I'm going to go down lower, back where I need it the most, or above, you know, that thoracolumbar junction again. And I'm going to really start to work around this. I'm not going to talk as much so I can focus on my breathing. You guys can watch here too. So I'm just finding some interesting stuff. Not spending too much time there. And again, this kind of thing is probably my preference. Get in there a little bit more specifically in some cases. And again, pin that down here so I'm not able to move as much. Might be a little more comfortable on the spine, I guess, you know, bottom line. Again, a lightweight may improve that. It may be harder to do without something in your hand. But again, if you can give yourself that big hug, you have enough body mass, especially when your arms are closer towards your head or above your head. There's more of your weight working for you basically that way. So check that one out. Again, you can spend even up to a minute in each of those positions on your way up. I do this as a pre-workout kind of a way to get things moving. And then I'll go do other more progressive kind of warm-ups. I wouldn't go straight from this into heavy lifting or hard throws. I would layer this in, you know, towards the beginning or post-training. You can sandwich this on either end. This is, you know, the buns of the sandwich, and then you got the meat of the training. This can be on either end of that or any other time, up to even a couple times a day. If things are really stiffening up, this is your kind of anti-rotation or way to winding up one direction if you're a thrower, or anybody who just wants to get more of that. This is going to help bring things into the front too. People with straining ribs, hernias, even, you know, stiff, tight muscles. We want to work through that whole segment, even opening our pecs, all that stuff. Even though we're working directly feeling on the backside, the front side is going to have some room to open up and make space and really just articulate, to move better and allow expression through the whole linkage here. So check that one out, give it a try, let me know how it goes.